This is Doug Smith speaking from the friendly city of Vancouver as an unparalleled pageant of sound and color rolls down Georgia Street en route to Empire Stadium for a football game between the national champion Edmonton Eskimos and the Montreal Alouettes. 1,000 times or more the 1954 Grey Cup game between the same teams had been played and replayed. And now the fondest hopes of football fans across the land had been realized. The two teams were back again to settle the matter for once and for all. The Alouettes sent their prettiest girls in a 48-piece band to Vancouver, a city besieged for almost a week by gay and rollicking football fans from everywhere, and by the proud citizens of Vancouver, who said they would make this the biggest and the most colorful and the best Grey Cup game of all, attended by more people than ever before. And they lived up to every word of it. This monster parade of 3,000 participants and 16 bands was watched by 130,000 people. 40 floats, painstakingly erected at a cost of $140,000, gave the spectacle of beauty and charm to match the fabled beauty and charm of the city itself. This was the first Grey Cup game ever played in the West, and the West was out in force to whoop it up. Here the handshake and the smile were just as important as the hook pass and the cross block. The football game, who would win? Well, side by side and in the know, the Alouette and the Eskimo. Here's the float of the Vancouver Lions, a football club which finished last and second last in its first 2 years in the Western Conference. But this was really the football team that sent football fever in Vancouver skyrocketing to the stratosphere. Anna Stukas coached the Lions in their first 2 years. And for a club that had no money in the bank, no franchise in a league, no players on the roster, no stadium in which to play their games, from this standing start, the Lions came a long, long way in hardly any time at all to play before larger crowds than any other team in the country. Without Stukas and the Lions, there might not have been a Grey Cup game in Vancouver at all in 1955. And here comes Toronto. Mayor Nathan Phillips and the Junior Board of Parade in Toronto took the loss of the traditional Grey Cup game in Toronto's varsity stadium with a grin and set out to do something about it. The big game, wherever it might be played, is a financial bonanza to merchants and hotel keepers. And so Toronto sent a railroad train across the country, visiting each of the major cities in turn, creating a goodwill and friendly feeling for the Queen City on Lake Ontario that all the gold in the province couldn't buy. The Torontonians gently poked fun at themselves and their great city and won this unanimous accolade from all who got to know them, the best sports of all. And so to magnificent Empire Stadium, the focal point of 8 months of committee meeting and planning, headed by Vancouver's Mayor Fred Hume and John Dunsmuir, General Chairman of the Grey Cup Festival Committee. Here in the Stadium of the Empire in August of 1954, on the final day of the British Empire Games, on that stretch of running track, Roger Bannister of England and John Landy of New Zealand ran the Miracle Mile in less than 4 minutes, described by some as the greatest single sports event of all time. The Montreal Alouettes dancing majorettes and marching band put on the same show that delighted their admirers back home in Montreal, where the mighty Alouettes play to standing room only crowds in every home game. The overflow crowd made the Edmonton Eskimos the solid sentimental favorites. For once the experts were in agreement. The game, they said, would be a contest between the Alouettes' pinpoint forward passing, as directed by a quarterback named Sam, and the ferocious ground attack of the Eskimos, Jackie Parker, Normie Kwong, Johnny Bright, Rollie Miles, Earl Lindley, and company. The Alouettes had just about as good a team as the year before, when the Grey Cup slipped out of their grasp by a 1-point margin. They played 12 league games, won 9, and then at a cost of injured players, in as viciously played game as they had ever experienced, the Alouettes came from behind a 15-point halftime deficit to win the Eastern Canada Championship by a 4-point margin from the slow-starting Toronto Argonauts. The Eskimos had it all their own way in the West, a much better ball club than in 1954. Including exhibitions, they won 18 out of 20 games, played their best football of the year in eliminating the runner-up Winnipeg Blue Bombers in 2 straight games by a wide margin. Doug Walker and Pop Ivy, the rival coaches, had their teams as ready as they could be. Wearing a colorful jacket, Mayor William Haralack of Edmonton, and in a red alouette hat, Mayor Jean Drapeau of Montreal. Mayor Drapeau watches the official kickoff, Mayor Haralack holding for Bull Ritchie, who kicked off to start the first Grey Cup game 46 years ago. And now the climactic moment of the Grey Cup game as kickoff time approaches. The Montreal specialist Bud Korchak leads